Hello, homies, and welcome back to Homeopathy Hangout, where today we get to hang out with our old buddy, Marcus Fernandez. How are you doing, Marcus?
I'm very well, very well. Lovely to be here. Thank you for inviting me on the Homeopathy Hangout.
That's all right. You're kind of part of the furniture now. You must be one of our most interviewed guests, hey,
Well,
between our chin wags and the other interviews. Now,
absolutely.
before we start, I had to have a giggle because anyone watching this on Rumble channel will see me sitting in the ute. So my family and I have embarked on 6 months of traveling around Australia. So I don't know if you can see our caravan is just right there. And I have got this very precarious setup here while I'm trying to record with Marcus. And it's taken me like 15, 20 minutes to try and get this connection sorted. I'm now connected to my phone. So if we drop out, luckily our editor is there to sort it out for us. But yeah, thank you for bearing with me, Marcus. I appreciate it. But I
That's
wanted
all
to
right. It's
get
my
you on a
pleasure. You're
podcast.
living the dream.
Oh, I don't know. I was just saying there's been so much fighting this past week, but there's so many other families here in the caravan park. I'll swing this around so you can see. Oh, yeah, you can only just see cars.
Yeah. Oh
So
my
many
God, a
other
lot of
families
families.
here,
Yeah.
and everyone I'm talking to, like I was chatting to somebody just earlier, they've done 8 months of travel around Australia, and the other ones said they've done 6 months.
Wow.
And they were all saying the first 5 weeks is the hardest. It's just fighting all the time, and then you find your groove. So we've got 4 weeks to go. 4
Yeah.
weeks of fighting to go.
Good job you got the remedies with you.
Ah, good. Yeah, actually, I gave my daughter some Ignatia earlier because she was really missing our pets. So yeah, it worked
Yeah.
really good.
Oh,
But Marcus,
oh.
you've birthed a baby, and I
I
would love to
have.
have
I
a
have.
chat all about it. Have you got your baby there?
I have. Yes, I've got my baby here. My new book. My
Excellent.
new book, Homeopathy at Home, published
Homeopathy at
by
home.
Hay House.
That's a very good name, by the way, because my little intro video that I created, like, I don't know, 6 years ago, it's called Homeopathy at Home. So, great minds think alike.
Oh, well, I got to admit, it wasn't that was Hay House. Hay House chose the title. They told me what title they wanted to use.
And actually, can we just firstly acknowledge how huge it is that Hay House is publishing this, because they are a major, major publisher, and there's very few homeopathy books that have been published by major publishers. Probably, I think
That's
maybe
right.
Dana Ullman and Miranda Castro. I don't know who published
That's
theirs.
right.
But
Yeah,
and
that's right.
yours, like literally, there's like a
Yeah.
handful. And did they approach you, or how did that work?
Yeah. Yeah. So basically, what happened during lockdown, Weleda, do you know Weleda, the
Yeah.
company, homeopathy and creams and different things? Great company. They asked me, would I write a book called a short book on homeopathy that would go along with their remedies in the stores. And we have health food stores here called Holland and Barrett, which is a big chain of stores. And Weleda, as you know, is a big international company. So I said, yeah, I hadn't ever really thought about it, doing something like that. And it was lockdown. I didn't really have much else to do at the time. No, I had a lot to do. But anyway, so I decided to write it. And actually, during the process of writing it, I really enjoyed it. And it really got me to think about the basics again. I've been doing homeopathy for 30 odd years. And to go back to the basics again, because I have a school, we have CHE, at degree level, postgraduate level, to come back to the basics was a really, really interesting sort of self-reflective process. And to go back looking at it with different eyes. And it really reminded me of when I used to run a mother and baby clinic, and I would teach the mums how to use homeopathy, these little classes we used to do in person, and how empowered they got when they learned about, the remedy belladonna for fevers, and they could do it themselves with their remedy kit. And then obviously the lockdown itself and the whole process, what happened with people feeling so disempowered around their health and well-being, it really resonated that actually people need to know about homeopathy. And they say charity begins at home, but actually health begins at home. And this is why I felt this was really a really important step for me to help spread homeopathy on that very grassroots level. And the book did really well, and people liked it. They enjoyed it. I mean, I have a copy here somewhere. I used to have a copy here. Don't know where it's gone. Where it was like an exercise book. So I wanted people to write in it and not to have it on a shelf. I wanted people in the kitchen drawer. People could, and that's because it was very accessible. People loved it, especially, moms and parents with kids. And then I got a call from Hay House, and they wanted me to come in for a meeting at Hay House in the offices in London. So I went in there, and it's really interesting. So the first book I ever bought, before I even started my course on homeopathy, was Louise Hay, How to Heal Your Body. Small little book, great little book. Even to this day, it's a great little book. And as you know, it's
how you can heal your life.
Yeah, no, body. It's a small one. There's 2 books. One,
Really?
yeah, body. This is a little blue book.
Oh,
Yeah.
Okay.
And then the second one was how you heal your life. But this is a very basic book. Basically, it's a list of symptoms and what it means and the affirmations that you say. And that opened my eyes when I was a young 20-year-old kid about to embark on a homeopathy program. And when I walked into the offices, as I walked in, that was the first book I saw. As I walked in the doorway, was that book. And it was a moment, Eugenie. It was like, wow, I've come full circle. This is a full circle moment. And I sat with a meeting and they said, look, we want to get behind homeopathy. We really want to get behind it. And that's obviously music to my ears when big publishing house says that. And they said, we like the home prescriber. We'd like you to do an expanded version of that. And I said, that's great. I said, but I also want to put some home remedies people can find in the kitchen cupboard alongside using homeopathy. And they said, great. And in fact, Michelle, big shout out, Michelle, the CEO of Hay House here in London, opened a bag and got all the remedies out that she uses. And so I knew I was at home. I knew I was amongst family. So that was it. And the week I signed the book deal, they got bought out by Penguin Random House. So, which is huge for authors, particularly, and they're going to keep their independence, Hay House, but that's that really affects distribution around the world. So, it was a fantastic opportunity, and so I wrote the book.
Holy moly. And I've just seen social media has been flooded with people with your book from around the world, which is absolutely amazing. And just so cool to think it's going to be in mainstream bookshops around the world on all the shelves. It's going to be easier than ever to give your sister-in-law and your friend and, whoever a copy of this book. And it's one of those things I always feel like, especially like if somebody's pregnant, you go, here you go, here's a nice present for you. Just give them that
Yeah,
book. Or you've had a
yeah,
baby, here you
exactly,
go. Or it's one of those
exactly.
books that everyone should have. And actually, maybe if you want to screen share, I'm really annoyed at myself. I was hoping to get a copy of your book before we left home, but I didn't get it here in time. And then I was thinking maybe I should try and ship it to where we are here, but I don't know how I'm going to do that. So
Well, just go through it. So again, it's a very basic book. Yeah. So the beginning of the book, I talk a lot about what is homeopathy. Again, remember, I wrote it to be so simple. Yeah, I want it to be accessible to people. I truly believe that homeopathy is the medicine of the people. And that was really sort of taught to me by Dr. Robin Murphy, who the book is dedicated to. So Dr. Robin Murphy, for people that don't know Dr. Robin Murphy, he was an icon in homeopathy. He sadly passed away a couple of years ago, but he really was an icon. He wrote a lot of homeopathic books, and the way that he taught in a very simple way. But he really taught me that homeopathy is the medicine of the people and to keep it simple. I was very lucky. He mentored me at a young age, and the homeopathy you see today is because of Robin Murphy. So he would always sort of emphasize whatever you do, keep it simple so people understand it. Okay, because you can get very highfalutin with homeopathy with any subject, but the art is to make it simple that people can open. And that's what I want with the book. People can open it and go acne, like we're going to talk about now, acne, what it is, and then as you can see here on the screen, then things you can help with that. But then what's the top remedies for that? Now, obviously, there's many, many remedies for acne, but I've really tried to condense it down to what I find the most common remedies for people to have. So it's like calibrom, silica, like calibrom. It's not a common remedy people would know, but it's a great remedy for acne. Silica, sulfur, and then some cell salts you can take, which you could take on a routine like calc sulf or calais sulf. But also I've put in other home remedies. So these are things that you can use alongside homeopathy, which again, I'm a great believer in things we can use. So for example, tea tree oil is great, for obviously diluted, but also to use alongside the remedies, or honey and cinnamon mask, where you can mix honey with a teaspoon of cinnamon, Ceylon cinnamon, add it as a paste, put it on your face, and it can kill, the bacteria within that. So this is what I want, is something that's a quick, again, don't put it on your bookshelf. If you buy the book, don't keep it on your bookshelf. I want it in your kitchen drawer. I want it tea stained. I want the dog to chew it. I want writing it, because I want this to be a go-to thing whenever you get any acute. And it is for acutes. I mean, this is important to say. These are acute things that can happen, within the house or within the home. So it's first aid as well as common things like anxiety or athlete's foot or bites and stings, bumps and bruises, all these different situations.
for anyone watching on the Rumble channel or listening to the audio and wanting to see what we're talking about, Marcus has just shared a layout of some of the book on Rumble. So go have a look there.
Yeah, and at the back of the book, I mean, like I say, it's A to Z of all different conditions. But at the back, if I can go right to the back here,
I
there
like
is
that you
some of the
have the
top
main
sort of
things in bold as well. It catches your eye
yes.
much easier, so you can get them.
Oh, yeah. So I should have explained that. So, for example, if you look at here at let's look at morning sickness. So again, there's an explanation of what it is, things that can help. But also, like I said, you'll see the remedies like cocculus, ipecac, lactic acid, formica, pulsatilla. Some of these remedies like lactic acid you won't find in a remedy kit, but you can get it from the homeopathic pharmacies. But I've highlighted in bold keynotes of that remedy. Now, what are keynotes? So this is really important, I feel, with to know keynotes. So if you had to play a song and you play three notes on the piano, you would recognize that song. There used to be a TV program. I don't know, we had it in Australia, but it was called Name That Tune. And so they would play 3 or 4 notes on the piano, and then you'd recognize. It's the same with homeopathy. It's like if you know some of these keynotes, that's why I put them in bold, then that helps you decide on the remedy. And you only really need 3 keynotes in order to prescribe. We call it the 3-legged stool. So if you've got that, then you can prescribe. And I'd say to everybody, here's like 5 remedies for morning sickness. Just try one. If one doesn't work, go to the next one. But do prescribe on the keynotes.
I love that you've kept it really simple, because I think if you are new to homeopathy, it can be extremely overwhelming. And so if you have a
Yes.
remedy there with something like morning sickness, for example, and there are 20 remedies to choose from, you're
Oh, yeah.
already feeling horrible. And now you have to read through all of these 20 and try and match it to the ones that's going to fit you. So, you've got the 5 main remedies there. Chances are probably 80% that one of these are going to work for you. And if it doesn't,
Absolutely.
go book with homeopathy.
And that's exactly it. That's exactly it. And I said, because there is remedies in here that, I didn't think we should go in the book. I mean, it's really difficult because I wanted to really crystal it down to the top 5 or top 4, whatever it is. And that was really difficult. But I did put in with this one, I put in this because I have found this works really, really well. And so, some of these I had to, because people have said, oh, Calibic's not in the remedy, Calibic's not in something, or you haven't mentioned this ailment. It's like, I can't mention everything. It's impossible. I had a word count. I went way over the word count. And thank you, Hay House. They were very, very generous and let me expand the word count. But there was a limit of how much I could actually put in.
Is there going to be a number 2?
Well, that's it. That's going to be number 2. That's number 2. Yeah, we could do homeopathy in the car, couldn't we, Eugenie? Homeopathy traveling around the country with the kids.
Spin off for sure. Oh, that's beautiful. The cover is really beautiful as well. Did they? I'm guessing they designed that probably.
Yeah, they designed it. Yeah, there was. It's a lovely sort of quite contemporary. So yeah, it's again, it's just wanting people to use it, but also in the book I talk about potency, because I think potency is an issue that people really struggle to get the head around, especially when you're first approaching homeopathy. So I do explain in there that it really, and this is the difference between allopathy and homeopathy, or orthodox medicine and homeopathy. We are stimulating the body to heal itself. So that remedy is like a key to a lock. So I imagine you're sat in a car, so that's a good analogy. Well, use that as an analogy. If you turn the ignition on, then the engine starts running. You don't keep turning the key in the ignition because it's going to start scraping. What you want to do is the engine's running. In other words, the vital force is kicked in and will start the healing process. So when you give a remedy, it's good to give us a dose of the remedy, say, like in this case, what we're talking about here, mouth ulcers, a Merck Sol, to give a Merck Sol 30C, and then check in a couple of hours how that person has felt after taking that remedy. And the person may say, yeah, I've got it, feels a lot better. Great. You may not need to repeat it. Or they could say, it's feeling better, but starting to come back a bit. Great, repeat it again. So we're always observing what we call the vital force. So in Chinese medicine, it's qi. In Ayurveda, it's prana. We call it the vital force. All we're doing is tapping into that natural healing wisdom that we've all got. So I would say to everybody, when you give the remedy, observe it. Now, obviously, if your child's got a nosebleed and is bleeding, and yes, you're going to give it more frequently. You're not going to wait 2 hours and decide whether the remedy works. You've got to adjust your prescribing according to what's happening in the situation, which I explain in the book.
You can tell that you're such a good educator and that you've been educating for many, many years, because your analogies are really good. And I think analogies is the way that you get a piece of information to stick in your mind, like what you were saying about the keynote. and with the turning the key and the I've used the turning the key analogy, and the potency is how hard you turn it, but you took it that one step further because everyone, like all of us, know what it's like when you've turned the key in your car's ignition and you've gone too hard, and it's that grinding sound, and you're like,
Grinding sound.
"Grr,"
Yeah,
it really
exactly.
makes it
Yeah, yeah,
stick in your mind. That's a good one
yeah,
for you.
exactly. Well, I think it's very much about, again, this is different for chronic disease. So I'm talking really here for acute. You learn homeopathy by using it and by giving it. But I think it's like, if your child's got a fever and you give a remedy, if that remedy's worked.
Mm.
You can see it working, you can see the action of it. And so it's really learning to observe what the body is doing with that remedy and also how that person feels. So often, like I said, with kids, you'll give them a remedy and often they'll fall asleep.
Mm.
Now that's
Yeah.
a great sign, as we know, so that's the right remedy. And so it's just really giving, observing, and then and seeing what's happening. But again, in a first aid, bang on the head, somebody's had an accident, then I'll probably be giving arnica 30 or 200, whatever I've got, whatever potency I've got, I'll be giving it maybe more frequently according to the situation. So, yeah,
Absolutely. Yeah, potency is such a big one, hey. And it's actually so simple if you just keep on using that analogy. I always say to my clients as well, sometimes the remedy is just kind of like you're nudging the vital force, going, hey, you need to do this, you need to
exactly.
do that. But then you want to be careful not to nudge too much, because then it's going to say, okay, stop. Like, I've had enough now, get away from me.
Exactly.
So
Well, it's like I always say, another good example is acupuncture with an acupuncture needle. What are they? What are these? Is the acupuncture doing? It's just helping the chi flow through the meridians, doesn't it? So they put a needle in and they trying to stimulate the meridian or block that particular acupuncture point. They don't keep putting the needle in, needle in, needle in. It's like they put the needle in and then they let it start to flow. And it's the same principle, I think. And what happens, and I don't blame people because we're brought up with allopathic medicine that we have to keep giving, 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 giving. We're not dealing with material doses. We're dealing with homeopathy.
mm. And where can people get your books?
Well, they can get it anyway. You can get it on Amazon. You can get it in bookstores, good bookstores, wherever you are in the world. So, for example, I know in the US, they can get it from places like Barnes and Noble. In England, places like Waterstones, WH Smiths. You can get it everywhere. Any good bookstores you can get, and you can order it online as well, like on Amazon. Or you can go to my website as well, marcusfernandez.com, and you can get it on there as well. But I think the link actually takes you to Amazon. So, and I would say, if you do enjoy the book, please put a review on Amazon. Even if you didn't buy it off Amazon, you can still leave reviews about books on Amazon now. So please do, because it helps the algorithm, helps it get to more people. So that's one request that I would have if you enjoy the book.
I have to say, I had a look for it, where to buy it online, and I just like every single book outlet option that we had here came up. So it's
Yeah,
just testament to having a really amazing publisher. But
absolutely.
hang on, I think you mentioned something about starting yet another podcast. Like, how many podcasts have you got now? Because you've got a homeopathy
I
at
know.
home podcast you're starting as well now, right?
Yeah, well, that used to be the home prescriber. So we've sort of repurposed it and called it Homeopathy at Home. And basically, it's stuff from the book. It's where I go a bit more depth with the book. And so I'll take a section every week, like, mouth ulcers I think it's mouth ulcers and cold sores I do in that episode. Well, I'm basically going through the remedies, explaining them a bit more and going into a bit more depth. So it's just, yes, and that's one of the thing I'm doing, Homeopathy at Home. I also do a thing called Homeopathy Spotlight, where I interview homeopaths. And I've also got another podcast as well, as you know, called Beyond the Shed, which is not homeopathic. It's for men and men's health. Well, men's mental health, actually. It's not just about men's health, but it's all things men and basically men talking in the shed, called Beyond the Shed, which is more health and well-being rather than homeopathy, even
And
though the homeopathy gets in there.
It's recorded in person, hey?
Yeah, that's in person. That's in our studio in London. Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, yeah, exciting times.
It's so fancy.
Oh, well, just very busy.
That's
But
incredible.
but hopefully people, back to the book, just to say that I just want people to use it. The more that we spread homeopathy, the more that it changes the whole health of the family, as you know, Eugenie, and it changes then the whole health of the community. And that's the only aim for me in the book, is to get people to use homeopathy.
That's amazing, Marcus. Well, congratulations and
Thank
well
you.
done. I know there's so much hard work that goes into writing something like this. Like, every author I've ever interviewed have all said that there's a huge amount of work that goes into it.
Yeah.
And kudos to you for making it so accessible for new users. And I really hope that people go and buy like 10 copies at a time and just give it as gifts. Like, if you ever
That's what people have been doing. I know. I had a webinar the other day. People are doing that, buying 5 copies, giving them to the members of the family and as gifts and presents, and that's great. This is how it spreads. That's how we get homeopathy into everybody's home.
This is so funny because I've just seen that my laptop battery is on 10%, and I don't have a lead that's long enough to get into the Caravan. But before my laptop dies, I want to take a little moment, and I know that you're so humble, so you're probably not going to enjoy me doing this, but I don't care because I really just want to say thank you so much for being our major sponsor for the podcast. So for the past 3.5 years that I've had this podcast, it has been a slog of begging and pleading to try and get donations to help run the podcast. Because as you know, it costs a lot of money to run a podcast, and not a lot of people know that.
No,
And
it
so
does.
recently when I was chatting to Marcus, I was just saying, I am just so over this. I'm so ready to close the podcast down. People just don't know, it's the social media that goes with it. You have the audiogram, you have to email the guest, you have to find a guest, you have to interview the guest, you have to edit the
Yeah.
episode, you have to write the show notes. There is so much work, and somebody has to
Yeah.
be paid to do that work. And I was saying to
Yeah.
Marcus, look, I'm ready to give this podcast up because I cannot do it anymore. And he said, Eugenie, your work is
Cool.
so valuable. I run a podcast as well. I'm one of the few people that know how much it works. I am going to take all of this pressure off you and just pay for you so that you can continue to do what you do best, and so that people can continue listening to the podcast free of charge. So I'm going to not get teary, but I just want to say with all of my heart, thank you so freaking much. It means more to me than you will ever, 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 ever understand. So thank you.
Oh, listen,
Right.
it's my pleasure. And Eugenie, I said to you at the time, your podcasts and the work that you do, I know where it comes from. It comes from your heart. You're very, very giving and also very humble, with what you do. And the podcasts and the episodes and the people that you have on, I know that you're coming from that place that you just want people to know about homeopathy. So we both we both share that same vision. My vision since I was 20 years old and I discovered homeopathy was I wanted to enhance the health and well-being of humankind through homeopathy, the education and application of homeopathy. And you share that same vision. So I'm more than delighted and more than, pleased to be the main sponsor, because you're doing amazing, amazing work. And I know people are really appreciative around the world, especially all your listeners.
Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. I'm almost glad that my battery's on 7% now, because I'm thinking I need a box of tissues soon.
Yeah.
I just want to say thank you so much. And I hope that our listeners reach out to CHE, Center for Homeopathic Education, and thank Marcus for keeping the podcast free of charge for everyone, because
Oh, it's my
it
pleasure.
was almost non-existent. So thank you. And I hope that your book gets the recognition around the world that it deserves. And
Thank
this
you.
is exciting times for homeopathy. So
Exciting times.
Where have you
Yeah.
ever heard of a publisher like Hay House, approaching a
Yeah.
homeopath to have this book, widely published? And it's going to be amazing because people are going to walk physically into bookshops around the world
Exactly.
and see this on the shelves. It's so exciting.
Very exciting. And like you said, this is the time for homeopathy. You hear a lot of homeopaths saying this. I've been involved in it 30 odd years. I've never seen a time like now where people are looking for a more natural healthcare solution for themselves and the family. And all we've got to do is just talk about homeopathy, just share homeopathy to all your listeners as well. Talk about it, speak about it, share it, because most people don't know what homeopathy is. Obviously, more people are, but still the majority of the world don't know what homeopathy is. So the more we talk about it, things like the podcast, things like the book, these are all touch points for people. But the best touch point is word of mouth.
Yeah.
That is the best touch point. So
Sharing
please share that.
like sharing how it helps you in your life. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Well, my battery's now at 4%, so I'm going to say goodbye.
I thank you, Eugenie. Much appreciated as always. Thank you. Really
Thanks,
appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.